Yes, there is some problem. My mic is not working, so I hope you don't mind if I message. Yes, you can message. So let me tell you one thing on behalf of
Yeah.
all the participants. The
Yeah.
major chunk present here
Mm-hmm.
are the postgraduates
Mm-hmm.
and in environmental sciences majorly, and the
Mm-hmm.
research scholars, and we also have a 3 4 faculty members like who are a participant and
Okay, great.
various faculty members of IPCW community are also
Okay.
attending these lectures,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
have a few undergraduate students are also here,
Mm-hmm.
so who have
Great.
studied it,
Mm-hmm.
who have the basic knowledge of environmental sciences,
Mm-hmm.
and they are with us. So you can shape your talk according to
Okay,
that.
great. So I think that is great because just about 2 hours ago I had a call with Naveen, and just following that I decided to sort of have two modules here. So I'm sure that a lot of you have heard from a lot of academics about about all the important stuff related to environmental sciences. It's great that we have a political science student. That's great. And so I think the first half of my talk will be really about why we need more people like you to be joining courses like these, and why we need uh, IP College. And it's great that like IP College has taken the lead in organizing this, and I hope that they do many, many more of these. And I know Naveen and Anindita for a while, and I'm sure that it's been a fantastic course so far. So the two things that I wanted to highlight here is the fact that now, since you guys are a part of this course, it is your duty to pass on the message on behalf of the environment to all your peers and to other students across the country, whether they are doctors or engineers or whatever. You won't be speaking on my behalf. You'll be speaking on behalf of the environment of the world that you live in. The second half of my talk will be more about my work and rural futures, and then we can have a chat about how you can contribute more in the future. But I'm sure that you already have ideas, and I'd be happy to have your thoughts. So we'll keep this quite interactive. So I'll have questions every now and then. So be prepared to unmute at any point. Yeah. And for those of you who've just had a very heavy lunch, maybe get yourself a coffee or whatever. That'll be great. So, can you see my screen? Yeah.
Yes, it's
Perfect.
visible.
Okay. So, yeah, the point of the first half is that it's really important for all of us as environmental crusaders to watch our surroundings, to listen to our surroundings, to read, to know what to read and where to read it from, because there's a lot of false information around, to know and to act accordingly. But our singular voices are not going to change anything in this world. So it's great to have a collective such as this to take this voice forward. So the first video that I'm going to show you, I won't tell you what it is, but I'll ask you for your thoughts just after. So, what is this video? Uh, what is the perspective that the video gives some of you? Maybe one or two of you can give me your thoughts on what you think the perspective of the video is.
Hello, good afternoon, sir.
Hi.
Hi. So I personally believe that this video shows us the significance of, even every particular entity. So you can go as far you want and as close as you want, but then there is a single entity that is present, and you can keep on dividing it and you can keep on expanding it. But when you are in that particular moment, so that thing has a specific role to it. For example, when the girl that girl was lying down, so she had a specific role at that point. When we expanded it, we came to, the big town, the earth, the universe, the Milky Way. So they had their own roles, and they played it quite significantly compared to their surroundings. But when compared with other things, they might not, to us, they might not look that huge. While when we, went to the pictometers, coming to the neutrons and etc., the neurons and the other things, then they also were playing a very significant role in their environment. But maybe we could not get that. We did not know it. So I thought what I basically got was everything, had a particular role in the particular environment they are in, and we just don't know it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's great. That's great. Uh, one more thought from somebody else.
We have got in the chat box, Neha Kaushik is
Okay.
writing,
Yeah.
smallest of small things, organisms matter, irrespective of its size in the whole world.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So then, yeah. So this, as you all know, is where we live, right? This is our home, and it's quite small in the relation to the video that we saw earlier. But this is still our home, and this is what our individual universes center around, more or less. Many of you are in Guwahati. Maybe few of you are in the no. Many of you are in Delhi. Few of you are elsewhere across the country. I'm in Assam, but this is really our collective home, right? And this home has about 8.7 million known different forms of life. I'm sure you know that. And this now is another video of this place that we call home. Yeah. And the things that make nature fascinating, but also some very deep aspects of why we need to take care of our home, because our home goes on, you know.
Some call me nature. Others call me Mother Nature. I've been here for over 4.5 billion years, 22,500 times longer than you. I don't really need people, but people need me. Yes, your future depends on me. When I thrive, you thrive. When I falter, you falter. Or worse. But I've been here for eons. I have fed species greater than you, and I have starved species greater than you. My oceans, my soil, my flowing streams, my forests, they all can take you or leave you. How you choose to live each day, whether you regard or disregard me, doesn't really matter to me, one way or the other. Your actions will determine your fate, not mine. I am nature. I will go on. I am prepared to evolve. Are you?
So, how many of you have already seen this movie in the past?
I have.
You have? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you agree with the movie, or you or anybody else, you might have some thoughts that are contrary to the conclusion of the movie? So everyone agrees with the fact that we need to work and to try hard to conserve our life on Earth, but nature goes on irrespective of us. So I think everybody agrees on that. I'll assume that, yeah. And this place that we call home is filled with a lot of wonder, a lot of magic, things that we understand, things that we don't understand. In fact, a huge chunk of the things we don't understand yet, you know. And we've got oceans, loads of oceans from where all life began. Oceans contain about 2.2 million known different forms of life. We've got wetlands and marshes, which are brimming with life, which have their own unique ecosystems. Can anyone identify this particular wetland? Is there anyone here from the northeast of India? No?
Is it Loktak Lake?
No.
Yeah, is it
No,
Loktak
it
Lake?
is. It's in Guwahati.
So, acha Dipor Bill.
Yes, yes, yes. So this is Deepor Bill, a unique and fascinating habitat, but currently facing immense pressures from the Guwahati Municipal Department, from railway lines going across it, and many other developmental pressures ensued by us humans. We also have a lot of forests across the world, different kinds of forests, and forests are some of the most fascinating and miraculous places on earth. And we barely understand how forests work. You know, like we know just the tip of the iceberg of how forests work. And yet, over 40% of the world's forests are currently under severe threat of the existing forests in the world. Forests contain about 300,000 different species of plants, and I'm not even going into the list of, of fauna that forests contain. And yeah, like I said, it's got some many great and fascinating beings. The elephant is very close to my heart, so I have a picture of an elephant here, but you can put your favorite picture here for your own imagination. So out of these 8.7 million known forms of life on Earth, the scientists say that about 90 million forms of life are yet to be discovered. So you can imagine the amount that we know and the amount that we don't know. And there are people trying very, very hard to figure out how life functions on Earth and what is the kind of biodiversity that we have on this Earth. This is a short video of some of our own work in trying to discover biodiversity in the northeast of India, and a very unique class of biodiversity.
I recognise these. It's Coprinus disseminatus. And I do particularly like time-lapsing these because they grow very quickly and are very, very pretty to look at. What is this one?
Stem.
Big stem, yellow mushroom.
Yellow mushroom. This one is edible, no?
This is not edible.
This one's not edible.
आपको किसे मालूम इसको नहीं खाते?
मालूम है खाया ना एक बार
कौन खाया था?
हमने तो एकदम ये कपड़ा एकदम गिला हो गया ना गिला हो गया तो ऐसा कभी पानी चुप ऐसा ऐसे नहीं खाया ऐसा हो गया टेस्टिंग ना अब ऐसा लगना अच्छा लगता है ना तो हम जिसकी टेस्टिंग किया बोलेंगे खाया
I don't think we need a translation of that. That was terrific.
been through many walks through forests in my life, but I have to say that I've never noticed the fungi. But today I've realized that they're everywhere, and also I'm beginning to realize that fungi really form the basis of life, and that without fungi we wouldn't be here.
Fungi is so important to the planet. There's more species of fungi in the world than there are species of plant. And we've been given the opportunity to help explain how fungus interacts with other life forms on this planet. And it's a wonderful opportunity. What's more, I get to understand more and more about fungi in the process. Oh, what's that?
But the sad reality is that people try hard to discover new species every year. There's many people in the world trying to save species that are about to go extinct. But about 10 to 100,000 species are going extinct every year, and a lot of this is due to anthropogenic and natural threats. And many of these species are yet undiscovered. So we are losing biodiversity that we don't yet know exists. And the fate of a lot of these animals is incredibly dangerous and dicey. Some are even projected to be lost in the next year. Some are projected to be lost in the next 10 years. But what really have they done to deserve this particular fate on Earth, which is not just our home, but also their home, right? So this again is a video which I call the reality check video. You might infer various things. There's loads of inferences, and we'll have a quick Q&A just after this one.
My heart is free, my heart is free, no place where I would rather be. My heart is free, my heart is free, until you come to rescue me. You find me here, you find me here, you dry my eyes, shed a tear. You turn me bad, you turn me good, forget to hope and learn to fear. Tell me that it's good, if we do something, believe in something. I don't think I should. If it ain't nothing, if it ain't nothing. My heart is free, my heart is free, no place where I would rather be. You find me here, you find me here, you dry my eyes, shed a tear. Tell me that it's cool, if we do something, believe in something. I don't think I should. If it ain't nothing, if it ain't nothing.
So, yeah, I'd like to know from a few of you what your thoughts are on this particular video.
Uh, am I audible?
Yes, perfectly.
Yeah. Good evening, sir. I'm so sorry I could not respond earlier. My mic was not working.
No worries.
My name is Rimji Mishra. I'm from Indraprastha College for Women. Currently in second year, pursuing history honors. I had
Very good.
EVIS in my first year, and Naveen sir was a teacher. So
Yeah, that's it.
so that's why I'm here today now
Great.
because here I had a great interest while I was in school, but did not got much opportunity. So
Mhm,
later on, it's now. And
mhm,
the observation in this video, the last one was I what I believed is that it was there was exchange, like the humans were exchanged in animal form, like
mhm,
whatever we are doing today, the animals are doing, and now we have become animals. So it is showing like how we humans treat animal, like we dump things upon them. We the industrial waste in the water is secreted down to the river channels, due to which there is a lot of water pollution. And I basically believe this video has turned the situations something true right now, like in this COVID situation, like what we used to do, we used to engage, like cage the animals. Like we used to, not only animals but many species, we used to kill them for just for fun or for money. But now see, humans are trapped in their home, and now they are moving out freely.
yeah,
So I
yeah,
believe I have observed that, and
yeah,
it's a really good one. Like one can have an interest much easily in this video because it's in some animated form,
yeah,
so you can
yeah,
remember this for a
yeah.
very long time.
And it also has a great soundtrack, which might
Yeah,
interest
yeah, yeah.
people. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Thanks. Thank you so much. Anybody else? Anyone else wants to add to
I would
Rimjim's
just like to say, oh
perspective?
my God.
Sorry?
I would just like to say, oh my God, we have never
Okay.
thought about that. Just
Yeah.
imagine if every one of us start thinking this way. I
Mm-hmm.
am so much sure we will, we'll just shiver before doing these kind of things. Like literally, just the facial expressions on human beings, and the alternate which was portrayed with I mean, this movie should be, I mean, this kind of turning point should be, made to go inside all our brains, so
Yeah.
that we stick and not behave in such a reckless manner that we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And the point of me spending more than 30 minutes of my time in all of this is to actually, because I mean you've heard great things from so many other people, so I don't have to come and repeat all of those great things to you. But I want all of you to use this as a docket to go back to your alma maters, to go back to your high schools whenever you're back home, and to go and for this to reach to as many people as possible. Yeah, as a means of awareness and as a means of education. So
The
I thought,
soundtrack, the video, it will just strike us all. Like, I
yeah,
mean, I really
yeah,
found this.
yeah.
It's just,
And
oh
it
my
is
God.
up to and it is up to all of you now to make sure that this reaches another 100 people and another 100 people and another 100 people. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
so we're going to. I mean, I have a few more slides here, and then we're going to switch to, yeah, switch to rural futures in a bit. Yeah, and I hope Neha and Naveen, Anindita, you guys are okay with the format, or yeah, you guys have any thoughts on things so far?
And I believe the
Yes,
format
yes. No, no,
is
please. Fun.
nice, and
Interesting.
it is much more interactive. So I think it's much better than straight away going for. So I think the format is
Great, great.
perfectly fine.
And I haven't heard from Anindita so far, so I'm scared of the teacher, Anindita. Uh, Anindita, everything is okay?
Ram is not.
He's not there? Okay, cool. No worries. Yeah, no worries. Okay, so I'm going to now, yeah, I think I've already mentioned
No.
that.
Hello?
Anindita,
So am I audible right now?
yeah, who's this? Sorry.
So Neha Kaushik this side.
Hi, yeah,
Am I audible?
yes.
So a lot of
Yes,
comments
yes,
have
yes.
been
You are.
given regarding the videos
It's
and
Neha.
everything. in the comment section.
Okay, cool. I have
And I thought you're not like you might not be aware of that. So I just thought I'll
okay, perfect. So I'm just going to have a look at those when I switch from this presentation to the other. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay, sir. Yes, sir. Sure.
Yeah. And if there is something that I need to know right now, it would be great if you can just announce it. Yeah. Yeah.
Not exactly. It's
A
only
lot
about
of
that
students
one
have
video.
Okay, great. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So, and the fact that at this point in time, not only in our country, I think across the world, we have to understand that knowledge is power, right? And there's a lot of knowledge around. There's a lot of fake knowledge around, going around on Facebook and all of our Instas and Facebook and all of that. So we have to understand and learn where we read what from. And this is not only true for environmental news, but it's true for news of all kinds. We have to understand that the only way to make change happen is the fact that you have to collaborate.
Your
And
voice is
hello, can you hear
hello,
me?
Saurav. Your voice is
Okay. What about now? Is it better?
I think it is fine. Saurav, it is fine.
Fine.
There may be
So,
network issues at the individual ends, but I think it is fine.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. So I wanted to stress on another point that
yeah.
many of you
It is
will
fine.
be. Okay, great. Thanks. That many of you will be will be getting into the big bad world very soon. And the key to know is that to create change, and especially in the environmental field in which many of you will be working, is the fact that you must collaborate with people, not just within your college, not just within your city, not just in your country, but actually we have to take collaboration for the environment global, across borders, way beyond politics, way beyond borders of countries, and we have to make conservation and environmental conservation an inclusive process. And I think that IP College is doing a great job of actually making that happen. And also the fact that many of you are from different backgrounds. There's history, political science, at least that I'm aware of. I'm sure there's loads more. And the fact that you can incorporate sustainability and responsible practices across occupations. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You could be an engineer, but you could be a responsible engineer. So I'm going to end this bit with one video. So I think we've all had a good reality check and a good sort of insight into the kind of challenges and problems that are in front of us. That being said, it's not all bad. I think there's many ways in which we all can make things better for ourselves and for our own existence on Earth. And one such way in which we can do this is the Rural Futures concept, which we've developed over the last 4 years at the Balipara Foundation. And I'm just going to use the next half an hour or so to take you through this. But feel free to ask me any questions at any point in time of this presentation. Yeah. So the context really for the birth of Rural Futures is the fact that we've gone through many different ages in sort of the phase of human life on Earth. Humans were dwellers of the forest, and humans used to harvest or forage food from the forest before agriculture came in, right? And many forests were used as large agroforestry farmlands. The Amazon rainforest is a great example. Following which, humans started to use forest land up to make way for agriculture, and that's what gave rise to the agrarian civilization. And the agrarian civilization used food security and income through the domestication of crops, animals, and we also started the barter economy. The next big change in the way the world economy worked was the industrial age, and the industrial age has given us fantastic things, things that we cannot live without at this point. But the industrial age also really led the whole process for bigger, brighter, faster, and cheaper growth. And this growth was fueled by carbon-based energy, right? And in fact, a lot of the growth in the world is still based on carbon-based energy. Then came on the digital revolution, and that is where we currently are. It's been absolutely fantastic. We wouldn't have been able to talk to each other if it wasn't for the digital revolution, and this goes on. What we believe is required for the future of our life on Earth is that we integrate nature into the way the world economy works. So we propose something that we call the naturenomics civilization. Naturenomics is one of our proprietary concepts and action programs. Is that we use the best abilities and we synthesize the best qualities of the agrarian, the industrial, and the digital age to create a pathway for equitable, for resilient, and for sustainable economic growth, not for a few, but for the masses. And the reason why we came up with the Rural Futures Action Program is to sort of be able to realize this dream of an equitable future and really to find the balance between biodiversity needs and the growth of human aspirations. So I think what's happened in the last 30, 40 years of human life on Earth across countries is that human aspirations are not moving together with biodiversity needs, and they often form a collision course. And that for the growth of human aspirations, one must always sacrifice biodiversity. And this is the point in time that we are in right now. And COVID-19 is I think one of the greatest examples of this. Although there are many people who will deny that, but I think that in this small circle we can agree on that. There's about 7 billion people in the world. I think 7.5 very very soon. There's about 3.5 billion people in the world who live in rural areas. Out of the 3.5 billion people who live in rural areas, about 1.5 billion people are directly dependent on forests for their livelihoods. A lot of these people are in Asia, in South Asia, in Southeast Asia, and a lot of these people are in Latin America, mostly in the Amazon basin. The problem I think that is happening at this point in time, and the problem that we're trying to fix with Rural Futures, is the fact that the 7 billion people in the world, whether they depend on forests directly or indirectly, their life on Earth is being made possible because of the forests. And there is nothing in this world which does not have its root in nature, including some of the concrete buildings that we are all speaking from, including the laptops that we are using. You know, we use materials that nature gives us to build everything on this earth. The other problem that is there is that the people, the 1.6 billion people who are dependent on the forests, are the guardians of our forest, and are the people because of whom we still have the forest that we have left. But these 1.6 billion people are some of the poorest people in the world. And 3% of the 7 billion people who live in urban centers, in massive urban metropolises like New York, London, many in Delhi, many in Bombay, are some of the richest people in the world, and so far removed from any assets and dependent directly on the exploitation of the 1.6 billion people, one way or another. So through Rural Futures and Naturenomics, we believe that we have to create a plan to create an interdependency between the economy and between ecology. And how we do this is by visualizing an economic model which is regenerative and one which is propelled by the creation of new natural assets. And I think we all know what natural assets are. They could be trees, could be iron, or is the water, is the air that we breathe. We are looking at this from the point of view of the eastern part of the Himalayas as a case study, but this could be done anywhere in the world. And we believe that by putting ecology back into economy, and this is something that we are sort of pitching as a policy now to not just to India, but also to many of our neighboring countries, to be incorporated into the post-COVID recovery plan. And that by putting ecology back into economy, we will be able to deliver basic assets to our rural people through the natural capital that we make. And when I say basic assets, we refer to all the assets that you need for a good human life on earth, from education to healthcare to water to shelter. And then looking at a future and hopefully an age as industrious and long-standing as the digital age is one in which you mix agriculture, you mix industry to create resilient indigenous communities. Really, the focus of rural futures at this point in time is sort of this whole geography from the snow-capped mountains of South China, Nepal, Bhutan, Arunachal Pradesh, all the way down to the Sundarbans of Bangladesh and West Bengal. The reason why we choose this area is, one, because it's home to me, it's home to many of the people that I work with, and it's a beautiful place. But not just that, I think it's also home to all the water, all the fresh water of Asia. It is home to over 200 different types of indigenous communities, 400 different languages, and also the nexus of two of the world's biodiversity hotspots. And where I'm speaking from right now is really in that nexus line between the Eastern Himalayan hotspot and the Indo-Myanmar hotspot. What we really think we can do through Rural Futures, and we are piloting on the ground, we have about 4 pilots on the ground to prove that this model really works, is that you work with local communities, indigenous communities, towards the restoration of their own habitats. You recreate habitat based on the natural habitats of the area of pre-existing forests, and you devise systems by which NTFPs could be harvested to generate a system for community revenue to build social assets or deliver universal basic assets. Through various programs that we do with indigenous communities, there's growth in knowledge. I don't think that we can teach much to indigenous people. I think we can learn a lot from indigenous communities, but we can help them take a program like this forward, which has interfaces with non-indigenous people as well. And based on nature, based on habitats, based on knowledge and skills, you give rise to businesses that are sustainable. These businesses could be anything from bamboo crafts to textiles to ecological mindful tourism, and there's a whole range, which gives further revenue, which can be used for further restoration of habitats. So this really functions as a positive feedback loop model between the environment, community, and the economy. We know that this model works because based on the 4 pilots that we have on the ground, from 4 years old to 3 years old to 6 months old, we have data to suggest that this really helps increase community income. It increases community income from the first year, and this income increases till year 10, and then it stabilizes. And the fact that incentivizing conservation for indigenous communities who anyway have frontline and derogatory livelihoods is really the only way to make conservation happen in the future, and should be the only way to make conservation happen in the future. So I'll just take you through like a schematic for how we start a program on the ground. So we look out for land that is degraded, land that used to be forested but is not anymore, which is a lot of the land in the northeast of India, more of this kind of land in the rest of India, and land where there are people. These could be people who've lived there for hundreds of years, or people who've had to migrate to these areas for various reasons, ecological, political, social, various reasons. I'm sure that many of you are aware of the complexities of the northeast of India. You use input capital to engage people in the process of creating natural assets and enhancing their natural capital pool. And through this very initial interaction, you already generate economic mobility, which is created by communities being involved in the restoration of habitats. What happens in the future is that then through this process, the community creates systems for sustainable forestry. Many of these systems have existed for thousands of years amongst indigenous communities. But because of unsustainable harvesting practices and usually unsustainable harvests that are driven by political forces or developmental forces, this has gone beyond terms of sustainability. So we don't try to tell people what to do, but we in fact try and remind people that they have practices and that they have the knowledge that is much greater than what any of us can learn anywhere in the world. And that we have to blend modern science and revamp and rewire indigenous knowledge and be able to implement indigenous knowledge in the field. Once communities have a stock pool of natural resources, which is either from sustainable forestry or from agroforestry or existing farmlands, communities autonomously manage these new forests and autonomously manage the capital that they raise from this new forest and the harvests. And we have already seen examples on the ground where communities that we work with have decided to build new schools for their children, communities that have decided to repair roads across their villages, communities that have decided to improve the healthcare systems or access to water in their respective areas. So we already have, cues and examples of how communities are being able to derive benefits from their natural capital without any unsustainable use, and with use which is only sufficient and required for functioning of that particular community. And this system works to conserve the forest because there is finally a system by which the forest is actually providing for all that you need. The forest has always done that. We chose to forget it over the last many decades. But through Rural Futures, this is a reminder of the way things were, before humans started agriculture on forests and the way humans lived on forests. But we also make it a point to not really dictate terms of how they should function or lead to in the future. We believe that humans have the right to have aspiration. We believe that humans have the right to live a good life, to have a good house, to have a good education. And we believe that through rewilding, through restoring habitats, you can make that possible in rural spaces. This is just an example of a program that we started earlier this year in the middle of the lockdown to reforest an island in the river Brahmaputra. It is not the Majuli Island, but it's another island. And you can see some of our team members loading saplings onto a country boat, yeah? And to take these saplings onto an island and to reforest them. This is us going on a country boat with an unfortunate mast to plant saplings on a river island. And this is communities getting saplings off the boat, which are now on their island, and then getting on with a rewilding program. Many of our areas, many of our landscapes are chosen because they are Asian elephant corridors, and the Asian elephant forms the greatest herbivore or a mega herbivore of this particular landscape where we work. And we use them as a mascot to identify land and to ensure that we also play a role in trying to bridge fragmented elephant landscapes. This is Gautam from our team having a meeting with the communities to plan tasks for the day. And why this really works, is that this is an estimation of the natural capital of a typical forest in Assam done by GIST. And this natural capital value gives an amount of about 7 lakhs per hectare of a forest in Assam. This is far greater for forests in Arunachal Pradesh, far greater for some forests in Kerala, far lower for some forests in many parts of our country. But the fact is that there is value in nature, and for us humans, it is becoming more and more important to put a monetary value on the benefits of nature. And we'll do this if this is the only way out, right, for conservation. What we find and what you will notice from your training in the environmental sciences is that many of these things they seem very intangible, right? So if you look at carbon, you might ask me, where does this money come from? If you look at ecotourism, you'd ask me, where does this money come from? And then there's bioprospecting, which is quite a far dream for many of our indigenous people. So we've changed this math around, and we currently focus on agroforestry, on the stuff that we get from indigenous agroforestry models in forests, which conserve biodiversity, and the money that communities earn through bamboo, fruits, and wild food. And that amount is in fact even a little greater than this on one hectare of land. And therefore, communities have a way to derive revenue by optimizing the value of the land that they live in, or the value of the land where they work. And this really is a roadmap for how we see rural futures functioning, and we actually have created this as a framework for everybody to use. So I'd be happy to chat with any one of you further if you think that you want to implement this in the future and you can't figure how. We'd be happy to help you. And so in phase one, we focus on developing community-based resource management groups. Many of these groups are actually sort of supported or have already been created by the government but have been dormant for a long time. Then we focus on training and developing community knowledge, especially youth, and engaging communities in both scientific and indigenous ways of restoring habitats, and generating interim livelihoods through planting, nursery maintenance, and all of that. Phase two is when we are able to derive physical cash from natural capital and create systems for food security, for water access, for education, and everything else which makes rural life not only complete but also very livable. And now in times of COVID, maybe even a lot better than life anywhere else in the world. We see a great synergy between the Sustainable Development Goals and rural futures, but we in fact postulate that we need a few other goals for a better human life on Earth, and these goals include the securitization of your natural assets, which is our own goal number 18, and the optimization of our own land, energy, wastewater, air, and carbon systems and pathways, and other ecosystem services that we use to be able to generate effective natural capital. We really see this whole process as a people's progression. I would like to use the term revolution, but many people have told me not to, so I don't. So the people's progression towards basic assets by building on natural capital, by adapting and mitigating to climate change challenges, and by meeting the basic needs of the forest fringes by delivering a system of basic assets. And we've been able to convert degraded mountains to thriving mountains with human habitation, and degraded floodplains to thriving floodplains with human habitation. And by using basic income or basic assets as a system to redefine what growth means, as a system to redistribute material wealth, as a system to reduce social inequalities, because a lot of our inequalities are actually linked to low economic mobility, to also focus on gender equality by actually enabling women to have decision-making powers in many of the committees, and not just men and women, but also other genders that form important parts of many indigenous communities, and to create a collective sort of revolution for degrowth, for indigenous degrowth, for urban degrowth, and for just degrowth of the mind, to sit back and to think about what you want growth to be for your own communities. And really in the future, we see that some of the main aspects which are already happening, some of the main aspects that we see are trickling in, like common pool resource management, and creating open access through technology and the sharing of knowledge, trying to drive global investments in natural capital, and protecting rights of our communities to natural capital. And I think that all of you have a great role to play, because the challenges that we face right now, especially in India, more so in the northeast of India, are not only challenges of forest land, of the unsustainable use of forests and development, but also some very basic fundamental rights to forests that are being taken away by indigenous communities. So we need more people to join the force, irrespective of what your occupation is. We need more people to be able to influence policy change. We need masses to, in fact, talk about it. We need you to go out to 1,000 other people and to talk about just this, and yeah, and to figure how you can incorporate sustainability in whatever it is that you do. Yeah. So thanks a lot, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. And there's comments, so I'm going to be going through that. But feel free to, yeah, to ask any questions.
Yeah, the students may also write. Yeah, first question you can ask by unmuting your mic. I think that will save time. And other students, meanwhile, others can type their questions in the chat box. Tanu, you want to ask some question? Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir,
Thanks.
for this session. Sir, you mentioned bioperspective. What do you mean by that? Bioperspective.
So through bioprospecting, what we have been trying to do is to assign rights to indigenous knowledge. So if you think, so there is an indigenous knowledge, say, of plants, right? And many indigenous communities have very strong ethnobotanical knowledge, which is knowledge of how humans have been interacting with the plants, right? Many of these plants have medicinal properties, for example. Many of the drugs in the world, I mean, like all the major cancer drugs in the world have been derived from plants. But there's very few instances where the benefits of a pharmaceutical company deriving a drug from a plant and using this in the mass market, these benefits never actually go back to people. So what we are trying to do is through documentation of indigenous knowledge, is to link particular knowledge of particular plants to specific groups of communities, and in also linking that to the particular geography where you live, because same indigenous groups might live in two different geographies, and just because they've spent the last 400 years in different landscapes, they have their own distinctions of knowledge. So we are trying to make sure that we link knowledge to indigenous groups and to geographical location, so that when this knowledge is used by major companies and corporates, say in the US or Europe, that there is benefit and profit for the communities through this whole process. Yeah. And that is one way of enhancing indigenous community learning as well. Yeah.
Okay. And second question is, like you said, you need masses, like you need people, more people to reach out to other people regarding this project and stuff. So if I wish to know, like if I wish to join, so like how can we like contribute or add to this project or thing? And like I'm from Delhi, so what can I do? Sitting at my home, or even like being in Delhi, like how can I like contribute to this cause?
So I think there. So by this cause, I mean, I think there are two things you can do, right? So you, in your own way, can help the cause of the environment. If you want to help us with Rural Futures, we offer remote internships as well now. So there are many ways for people to partner with us. We offer physical internships, although those are not happening anymore because of COVID. We are offering remote internships based on a plan that will benefit you and will benefit us. We have many open projects for which we need help. We are just in the process of revamping the website. So you'll have all the projects on the website by the next week, but you can always drop me an email. And we like to build a symbiotic plan for our interns, so that it's not only us, using you for our work, but also you learning through the whole process. And we can develop that. And then another way is to see if you want to work with the Rural Futures project. And based on the new normal, there's no need to move to Assam, but many of our employees are remote employees. So we are always happy to have applications from across the world. We currently have a team in 4 places in Assam, in Bombay, in Calcutta. We are just beginning a team in the UK, and yeah, so we are expanding, and we'll be happy to have as many people to join this bandwagon, or you can create your own bandwagon. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Any other question, students? If you want, you can ask.
I mean, so I've also gone through the comments, Neha. I think there's a lot of yeah, there are more
Yeah, please.
comments, right? I don't think there are any questions in particular, but yeah, comments. Mm. And yeah, I'm happy to share all the links with anybody that wants that. I think Ambika was wanting to know. Yeah. Any other questions or thoughts or?
Yeah, any other question, anyone? No, I guess.
Oh, I guess. Okay. Okay.
Yes, there is one question. You can read it out from the comment section, chat box.
Yeah. I have it. Are there any steps that we can include from these rural sustainability practices in the making of smart cities too? So yes, I think urban development and rural development is not really far removed, and I think the reason why urban centers are becoming unsustainable is because of their heavy dependencies on rural areas. So I think smart urban development has very close links to where all the energy in the urban area comes from. So I think green energy is the future, whether it's in rural or in urban, because urban areas get as much sun as anywhere else. I think what we really need to start incorporating in urban development is ways of community, is of community gardens and community forest patches and community farmlands for agroforestry. So I think that urban development has all inspirations in rural development. We just sometimes forget to see where everything in our cities come from. Sharmishta, yeah, any project related to fungi, Kolkata or in Bengal? We don't have any active project in Cal or in Bengal, but I think as soon as the lockdown is over, we are planning a fungi biodiversity survey in the forests of North Bengal. Yeah. So we will be doing that either. I don't think it'll happen later this year, but probably earlier next year. Yeah. So we do plan to actually take our fungi exploration program across the eastern Himalayas. We have done 4 states of the northeast now, and North Bengal is on the cards. I just cannot tell you when. Yeah. Momita Dikshit. Yeah, I mean, feel free to send me an email, Momita, and then we can see how you can intern or volunteer or whatever. Yeah, yeah. I'm sure. I mean, you can all collect my email IDs from Neha or Naveen or Anindita, anyone. Yeah.
Any other question?
So I do have a question.
Sure.
So it was a very interesting talk, and
Thank
I would like to know, like the communities have been like the indigenous people are really involved in the like have a very strong belief in the. I mean, there is a religious belief related to the ecological practices that they have been doing. So, do you think it has changed in recent times, or I mean, how do you think the attitude of the rural people or the indigenous people has changed towards their environment, or it hasn't? I mean,
So I think essentially, deep down, it has not. But indigenous people's aspirations have grown, right? Everybody wants to
yeah,
live like
because everyone aspires to have a life like it is
yeah,
there in the urban
everybody,
areas. So,
everybody in the world, and I mean everyone should have aspirations. But the problem is that indigenous people aspire to have a concrete house because a concrete house is a measure of success. But people don't understand that a concrete house in the hot weather of Assam without air conditioning is just too hot for life, you know. So, and a bamboo house on stilts has better ventilation, but a bamboo house on stilts also does not get flown away in the floods, right? So there's a lot of indigenous knowledge and values which happen to develop because of the landscape and the nature around people. But aspirations have grown, and there's nothing that we can or should do about aspirations, not at all, because every human has a right to have a house and to have a car and to fly. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. But like I notice in rural areas also, there are like the practices that they've started doing in terms of like building their homes in a different way than it used to be earlier, and using ACs and not I'm not saying like it's just out of curiosity that I'm asking that I think that since rural areas are not as they used to be earlier, so I think there's a need to also educate them regarding the sustainable way of development, since they are developing now and the incomes have also risen in some parts. So yeah,
Yeah.
that was the main thing
Yeah.
because of which I was asking that.
Yeah. And
I
I
think if
think,
we
I think,
communicate now, then it can be better, since it's anyways going to get urbanized in some time, few
and I
areas near
think,
to the major cities.
yeah, I think what you're saying, Sudha, is very valid. And the one way in which you can make it happen is by sort of reconstructing the symbiotic relationship that indigenous people have had with the forests. Uh, and this relationship has always been economic. There was just no cash involved back in the day, you know, but you got all your food from the forest. So we are trying to sort of reconstruct this in the modern way of money, and by creating and expanding the realization that a tree that lives is much is worth a lot more than a tree that is chopped. And I think as soon as this realization happens, I think everything slowly will fall into place, and that we will be reconstructing people's relationships with nature. But many a times the reason for degradation is not indigenous people or consumption by indigenous people. It is the need of urban areas, fueled by politics, fueled by development. And yeah, I mean, and the northeast of India is a great example of abuse of power by developmental um, projects. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for your opinion.
You
Yeah.
read about the dams and coal mining and all of that, and you'll know what I'm talking about. Yeah,
Yes, yes. Sure.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
I have one question in the chat box from Neha Kaushik. You can read it out.
When we talk about urbanization, we specifically focus on the concrete structure, the infrastructure of the area regarding energy or connectivity, instead of the real ecosystem or topography of the region. How do we bring attention to that? I think, yeah, I think it's a very important question, Neha. But you know what? I think many of our when we are talking about new urbanization, I think what you're saying is very, very important. But the fact is that many of our urban centers, and I mean, people who live in Delhi, Central Delhi, South Delhi, these areas. I mean, you have a lot of open space, but the planning of many of cities our cities were planned to accommodate 10% of the people that they currently house, right? So it's just the very fact that there's so many people, and that there has been no planning for the 90% of the people who live in these cities. So the real ecosystem of the area is largely gone. Although, I mean, it's amazing to see wildlife thriving or being resilient in many of our urban areas, like the big cats in Bombay, for example. um, you can bring attention to that, I think. Yeah, by talking about it, reading about it, writing about it, and by helping people plan new cities better. I think India is just planning on building 17 new cities, brand new cities. So yeah, I mean, I hope that some of you get on the committee planning these 17 new cities. And the next question by Ambika is, how can a behavioral change towards the environment be brought about? Could you suggest what rigorous measures can be taken in regard by our students? Yeah. In fact, Ambika, you're not, I mean, you are as powerful or as powerless as me in this. And the reason why I chose to show you the first half of the presentation, which was largely videos, is because, I mean, if any of you are interested, please do send me an email and I'd be happy to share the full docket with you for you to use in public fora, in back in your schools, in your colleges, because I don't think that all of you are from IP, right? Like you're from everywhere. So use it back in your colleges, because I'm not sure if all colleges in India have people as great as Naveen and Anindita to teach environmental sciences. They don't. So you need to use this as a docket. Use it for kids who are 5 years old. Use it for teenagers. Use it for adults. And just do all that you can to talk to as many people about it, and to do it as effectively as you can. Um, yeah, write about it in newspapers. Talk to friends to go out on. Yeah, I mean, I'm not creating a protest here, because I know that you're not allowed to anymore, but I mean, it's good to be able to voice your opinion whenever possible. um, there's a deadlock between How do you resolve situations where there's a deadlock between indigenous practices and proposed sustainable measures? um, so Nandini, this really ever happens. um, I think in my experience, this hasn't happened, but I know people with whom this has happened, and I think that what you need to do here is be cognizant of indigenous values. Use modern science. Use modern science to convince indigenous youth that certain indigenous practices and values, and like hunting is a great example. Hunting is an indigenous practice, but we just cannot allow hunting to happen anymore, because there's many of the animals are endangered. And I think that the only thing by which you can combat indigenous practices or um, or indigenous myths is by using science and raising awareness, and by talking to indigenous youth, and by making sure that indigenous youth have education. Yeah. How to grow consciousness around us, religious also. Yeah. Momita, I think the same answer really I have here to my answer to Ambika. That is, talk to as many people as you can. I think I won't comment on religion, but to my knowledge, there is no religion in the world which subscribes to the degradation of nature. Um, but I think apart from that, it's all about raising awareness. I understand that there isn't stability in education. I think all we can do is travel as far and wide as possible and talk to as many people as possible. And I think not only talking but also doing. We have to change our own consumer habits first, and incorporate sustainability not only in our daily lives but also in the occupations that we choose. Neha, Shimla itself had many of the hills cut, even less of their original sizes, increase in landslides. There were voices raised, but no action was taken. Yeah. So Neha, I think this example, I mean, there's 100 similar examples across our country, which is very sad. Voices are raised, but no action is taken. And I think that the problem here is that I think activism in India is not at this point in time looked at in very great light. Um, what we have to do is to ensure that we support all the voices with great science and great facts. I think the reason why a lot of India's activism fails is because it's not supported by hardcore science. So I think that we need to really strengthen our research base in measuring the impact of developmental projects, and by providing alternatives, right? So we cannot go on saying that building a road is bad and building a road is bad, but we have to propose an economic alternative to the nation. That is what we do through Naturenomics and through Rural Futures. And I think that the only kind of activism that will work today in India is one in which you use science to propose an alternate economy, and an economy in which you benefit ecology and derive revenue from it. And that is possible. It's not possible all the time, but it's possible in many of the cases that we're talking about. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
So, I just hello, Saurav.
I
I
know.
would just like to thank you on this, on such an engaging discussion of the brilliant work that you and Balipara Foundation has been doing in Northeast. So
Thank you.
I think, and that was one of the reasons that why so much of discussion could arise after at the end of all this, of your talk. Now, I have a very general question, not directly from the kind of work that you have been doing, but all something that has troubled me, and I'm sure you also would have been troubled by this. So it is about the floods that comes, that is coming very frequently Assam due to Brahmaputra.
Yeah.
So actually, I have two questions on this. So, A is that is this flood? I mean, it has more or less become an annual phenomenon. It's happening almost every year. So, is this flood in Brahmaputra natural cycle of flood, or is there any major anthropogenic factor also in play here? So that's the first thing, and the second is that we apart from the loss of human life and property, we have also seen that it's also causing death of some key species like rhinos. And there was a recent news: 9 rhinos, 11 hog deers were killed in the flooding. So in Kaziranga and other protected reserves of Assam. So are these deaths more than the offset that could happen due to a natural death cycle? Because naturally also floods do comes in protected areas, and they do cause some death to wild animals. So are these more than that natural offset? On is that is there any major anthropogenic factor also in play? If you can just
Yeah.
discuss this.
So the floods in the Brahmaputra Valley, and especially in Kaziranga, have been happening and have been recorded for the last 209 years, according to many papers. Yeah. But according to a lot of data, it's been happening as far as people can remember, right? And the reason why, and the reason that Kaziranga houses such a specific grassland type of ecosystem, which can still house the rhino, is because of the annual floods. So actually, the continuity of Kaziranga and the future of Kaziranga is intricately linked to it being a floodplain, right? So the floods have been happening forever, and the fact that the floods happen is a part of the life cycle or the annual cycle of the Kaziranga National Park. And you need the floods for the grasslands, and you need the floods basically to create habitats for the rhinos to live on, right? The problem is that the intensity of the volume and the scale of the floods has been increasing, especially over the last 10 years. And this is only because of anthropogenic reasons. Some of the top three reasons is illegal sand mining, which is happening upstream of Kaziranga, which basically is leading to a rise of the bed of the river, and therefore just the volume of the water in the river rises up. So it's not just that there is more water, but like the level of the river has risen. Second is that the dam upstream in Sangpo in China, yeah, is being controlled independently of India, monsoons in India, and of Kaziranga National Park. So the letting out of water in that dam at this particular point in time of the floods is what caused the second wave of floods this time. So again, anthropogenic. And the deaths in wildlife, I think that this is higher. What has happened this year is not as high as last year, but it is higher than the natural cycle that is recorded by many wildlife biologists. And the reason why this happens is that is because of development in the Kaziranga National Park. So a lot of the animals that are died, that are dead, are not mature animals, but they are calves still. And because of physical development of highways which are raised above the ground, because of physical development of concrete resorts of houses, the calves and baby animals find it much harder to get on to relief and to hills, because they have to cross highways. Yeah. So in fact, two of these deaths happened on the highway, and one of the rhino calves actually could not get on to the highway to safety. So I think that the floods are a part of life, but the problem is that people are now living in parts of Kaziranga where people have never lived before. So human habitation has encroached into the boundaries of Kaziranga National Park, and that development has happened in an unsustainable way. So the floods are no longer compatible with the indigenous lifestyle, because indigenous lifestyle has modernized, and development of the State Highway 37 has not helped at all. So the floods will continue to happen. I don't think that we can stop the floods, or we should stop the floods, but we can, and we are planning some drone-based planting of trees which prevent soil erosion upstream of the river. Yeah, and also to work on a few PILs for the illegal coal mining issues upstream. So yeah, yeah.
Thanks. I think you summarized and linked the cause and effects really well. So I think that's really, and I'm sure that you and Balipara Foundation have been doing some real good work in Northeast, and things would be better. And also there's some recent news for birders and bird watchers. It has been a sad news, and then something happened in Dehing Patkai, and then some areas of the areas near Digboy oil field. They were absolutely brilliant birding areas, and then some very specific and rare bird species found in those areas. Now they have been denotified for certain coal mining and some other industrial and mining activities. So do you think that somehow this is also going to affect the tourism industry in Northeast? Because I know a couple of birder friends, and they used to make almost annual visit to Northeast just to go to Dehing Patkai and Eagle Nest and some other places, some good birding sites there. So some tourism can also be affected by this way, and in somehow we are trying to generate income by digging out coal from the ground, but also reducing income for not only local people but also, and
Yeah.
from economic perspective, we are reducing the income from that part. So
Yeah.
would you have any comments on that, because you have been working with community there? So that's
Yeah,
why I thought you best
for
person
sure.
to ask.
So I think it will definitely reduce tourism. It will definitely affect livelihoods. But I think tourism-linked livelihoods, or ecological tourism-based livelihoods in Assam, I think the majority of it is sort of around the Kaziranga and Nameri belt. So the kind of birders that would go to the Hing Patkai or Bauchan are birders who know where to go, and sort of birders who know what they want to see where. So unfortunately, that does not form a large group, unfortunately. So I think that the impact that Dehing Patkai will have from tourism will be there, but it will not be as severe as the impact that the mine will have on 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 the forest, and therefore on the lives of the local people, right? So I think access of local people to NTFPs have been shut. And I think just the fact that you have a coal mine around the area, I think that the consequences of a mine, and the consequences of the fact that there was an illegal mine for so long, yeah, are immense. Because if you have an illegal mine, there's no boundaries on who works there, and on sustainability practices, and on the age of the people who are working on the mine. So I think that the consequences are grave. Consequences are grave. Many people have actually, all of the Northeast has unified against this, and this was one thing which brought many conservationists from across the Northeast, from across India, from across the globe, all together. And it was great to see the fact that so many people sort of collectivized to make this happen. But like I said, we need more voices, and we need hardcore science to provide alternatives to development too, because I mean there is science which proves that coal is not even a profitable industry, right? So I mean there is enough evidence across the world to prove that coal mining makes zero sense for the economy. So I mean I'd be happy to have a debate with someone who could convince me that
Otherwise,
coal as an economy actually makes sense. But the very fact that it would be more profitable for you to have a solar farm just around the barren lands of Dehing Patkai. So yeah, so I mean I think that the logic is that many activists are fighting with facts, right? And that's fine. But us activists and conservationists need to start working with hardcore science people at universities and here and there and be able to provide economic alternatives. And that is the only way in which we can lead to change, because nostalgia and romanticism, that doesn't work anymore. You know what I mean? So I mean you and I agree, and you and I will feel bad. But if you're looking at it from the perspective of the development and the GDP of a country, we have to start to speak a different language. Yeah.
true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very rightly said. So thank you, Saurav, for it was really good to listen to you and to chat to you and have some discussions that we had
Yeah.
today. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Naveen, Neha, Indita, everyone. Yeah, thanks a lot for your time, and hope this was useful to all of you. And feel free to drop me an email. Yeah.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Saurav. I would also like to ask one question because
Yeah.
you are based out of Assam. So I
Yeah.
just want to ask you a question. Recently, we saw a huge fire broke out into Tinsukia oil field.
Yeah.
So because you are there on ground, like in Assam, so can you tell us a bit about like what actual impact is going to be of that fire in the current forest area? As we have seen, it's going to hurt the forest and the water bodies there a lot.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, are you people going to opt some restoration projects there as well in the restoration of the nearby environmental areas like forest or aquatic ecosystems there?
Yeah. So the cost of this damage on nature, I mean, we have not quantified it. Nobody has quantified it. The government is doing an assessment, but we have data to suggest that about 18 endangered species of birds that were found in that particular area might not be around anymore. And I think that the effect of this has also taken place on endangered river dolphins and a small herd of elephants. So I think that the damage has been great. And we do in fact, I mean, we and a few other organizations are sort of working on a draft plan uh, for the restoration of this area. But for the restoration of this area to be successful in the future, we need to know for a fact that the reason why the damage happened and why the fire broke out will be fixed, right? Because otherwise it's a waste of everybody's time. So I think for now, the government plans to relocate people who are directly in the danger zone to slightly outside, and then figure out the plans for making sure that things like this don't happen again. But and also we have requested many agencies to try and figure out and ensure that this does not happen in the many other oil fields of Assam, because there are many which would be susceptible to the same reaction. Yeah.
I think things like this actually, environmental awareness is something which is required for this, and you are doing a very good work. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Saurav, for accepting our invite. Again, I would like to thank you all for that, and especially thank you for such an engaging question and answer round that we had here. So it's
Much
really
I'm glad.
thank you so much for so patiently answering all our queries here for participants and us, and it's so great to see that the beautiful videos that you showed in the start of this lecture. So actually, that actually set the tempo of today's
Yeah.
lecture,
Yeah.
right?
I'm glad. I'm
So
glad.
then,
Yeah.
and thank you for showing the great work that you are doing at Balipara, like the innovative. I really like the innovative concept of nature nomics that you
Mm-hmm.
people have been
Yeah.
following. So and the basically, because every like it's like everyone is talking about sustainable development, but actually we are not working on it. Actually what sustainable development and how should it be achieved? So you are actually working on it. Thank you so much for that. And one thing also, this capacity building in the restoration programs, and the restoration programs that you are doing, and basically in restoring the habitats, that that is actually the need of the hour. That is we have today. And you really, your rural future projects, it's so great to know about it, and it was very like interesting. And it's good to know that you're working with the indigenous people, because they have the accurate knowledge of their surroundings. They are the ones who can tell you the best, because they have been living there for thousands or time immemorial, we can say. So thank you so much. And we would be sharing your email ID. Our participants are very much interested. Those who would be interested in working with your foundation would definitely get in touch with you. Thank you so much for being here with us once again. So I think, yeah.
Thanks a lot.
So now I think yeah, you're most welcome. You're most welcome. So the participants now may leave. So we'll be joining for the next session. Thank you so much, everyone. So please keep a tab on the. So today was the last lecture in this theme, natural resource management and sustainability. So we will be now uploading the assignment for this theme on the website. In the last tab, you would have seen lectures and assignments. You'll find it there. We have already uploaded the assignment of the first week there. Kindly do it, because these assignments are very important for getting you the certificate of this course. And thank you so much once again. So please keep a tab on the website, and we'll be starting as soon as we'll be starting the next week from tomorrow, and we'll be uploading the lectures, the upcoming lectures on the website itself. So thank you so much. See you in our next session. All the best. Mail ID we will share. Yes. So please do find the mail ID of Saurav from Bali Para Foundation. Those who want to work can, or as an internship, or if you want to learn anything like that, you can contact him. Thank you so much. You may leave the meeting now. Thank you.
Morning, let's connect.